and welcome to another episode of My Duke and I. Hello, Denise.
Hello, Anita. Hello, listeners. We're happy to be back with you again. What will we be discussing today, Anita?
Well, we'll be discussing Meghan's surprise visit to see the New York Yankees and Boston Red Sox, Diana's award, the UK hysteria about Archie's private christening, the myth about the cost of the $2.4 million for Fromore Cottage repair, Archie's big day, and William and Kate's betrayal of Harry and Meghan.
Wow, that's quite a bit to discuss, but let's go.
Yes, so I was so happy to see Meghan at the New York Yankees and Boston Red Sox game in London. And you know what was even more exciting for me is that none of the reporters, nobody knew that she was going to be there.
Oh, yeah, it always warms my heart to see them left out in the cold. Because, if they'd been there, they all would have been there with their cameras trying to get their rent and their food bills paid for the month. So it warms my heart to see how the Sussexes can just completely bypass them and go out and do their thing without any source knowing. Yep. So I think that's one of the big advantages of them leaving KP, because all those secret sources, all the palace sources, are no longer in the loop. So nothing can be leaked ahead of time.
That was one of the biggest problem with things being leaked. And what this tells us that Meghan really does not need the UK press to bring awareness to any of their causes. They're independent of the UK press, which is excellent. But what I really liked about the visit, apart from Meghan, just showing up in and of herself, is the gifts that they received. And one of my favorite, I think, the reason why it's my favorite is because of the expression that Meghan had on her face when she saw the onesie that the New York Yankees gave to them for baby Archie, because it had number 19 on the front. And when she turned it around, there was Archie's name on it. So that was really, really cool. Her expression was just so natural. You could tell this is a mama that is in love with her baby.
Yes, they say a picture is worth 1,000 words, and I think that is truly her expression, and Harry's expression too, with that baseball bat, the baby baseball bat.
Yes, that was from the Red Sox.
Yeah, I think we can safely say there will be another Red Sox Yankees game in the making in the near future.
At Frogmore, right?
At Frogmore, yeah, back in London in the near future.
Yes, the way that he took that bat and how he had it in his hand, and it seems like you could just imagine him giving it to Archie and sort of practicing their swings with that bat. It was just really cute to watch.
Yeah, it definitely was. So yeah, I was just so happy, and Meghan looked so radiant. She was just glowing. I mean, just blissfully happy, I guess would be the best word to describe. Blissfully happy. She was just smiling and just, and to see, I love their PDA, because you can see how much they're head over heels in love with each other. And that is just like an antidote for all the toxic media stuff that comes out. Hopefully our listeners are not paying attention to the British media, and they realize that all of that toxic mess they put out, that's all it is, really. Toxic mess that should be disregarded.
Yes,
Seeing these two lovers out there is just the perfect antidote for all of that.
Yeah, and what I noticed too, even though there may be negative press, but they were so well received when they walked across the field. People were just so happy to see them. So what I think a lot of the times is that the British press wants to make us think that the world is against Meghan, and Harry, but that's a lie, because the way that they were received and everywhere that they go, People are smiling from ear to ear, so happy to see them, cheering them on, calling their names. So they're really loved worldwide.
Oh, they are. And I know that for a fact that the average British people think of the press as nothing but tabloid lies. Because when I was over there, I spoke to many people in the public, and I even asked them, they said, oh, we don't buy that trash. That's their thing. It's garbage, because we know it's not true. And it was really refreshing to hear that, because that reassured me that what the negative press is trying to do, the people over there are not buying it. And it's sadly, unfortunately, what the British media have done. They have instead painted a very negative picture of Britain itself. Because if you read their articles, especially as we're on social media and we see it, what they've managed to do is convince and portray to the world that Britain is still a very negative nation. And I wonder sometimes what the Queen, if she even realized that, or is she just so sheltered in the bubble that she don't realize that her country is being portrayed as one of the most racist country on earth. And I would think that being head of state of 53 Commonwealth countries, that actually should be a big concern of hers. Because mark you, here it is, the monarch is supposed to be the head of state of 53 Commonwealth countries, where 96% of those countries are people of color. I'm not sure if that is the best light for your country, to be shown as one of the most racist countries on earth. Yeah, so I think whoever is advising the Queen or reporting back to her, they actually do need to bring this to her attention, that they are being portrayed as such, and maybe it's time that no explain rule. It's time for them to actually do away with that rule, because it's definitely not helping them. Because not only over here on this side of the pond are they being portrayed as that, but a European paper just said that they were, in fact, one of the most racist country in Europe. In fact, it says the UN spent sometimes in the UK to examine what was going on, and the UN actually released a UN human rights report, and in their findings, they did say that Britain is very hostile to people of color, people coming in, and that they were, in fact, one of the most racist countries in Europe. And so if that's a UN report, then I would say that they definitely need to worry about that. Without going off on a tangent, one of the things that this UN report highlighted was that race, this is just a quote, it says, the UN's report highlights that the issue of racial inequality in schools are especially dire, describing how race and ethnicity continue to have a significant impact on the educational outcomes. It says, according to its findings, Afro-American children are almost 3 times as more likely to be excluded from the school permanently than white British children. In some examples, it says schools have also refused to appeal decisions when Black and ethnic minority students have been wrongfully excluded. And it says racial bullying is also on the rise in Britain. So I would say, with all of this information that the British actually try to keep from the British public, it's something that they need to start paying attention to, because guess what? If they don't highlight it, then I think we definitely should.
The world is watching. So here's the UN, United Nations, highlighting it. So anyways, wasn't Harry's speech fabulous at the Diana's Award? Here's a clip of it.
It really is a great pleasure to be here this afternoon and feel the inspiration percolating in this room. It is the quintessential combination of enthusiasm and optimism, and something that we can all feel when surrounded by empowered youth. I'm struck by a few things today, most of which is the power of the invisible role model. The person who may be sitting here today that doesn't realize that someone looks up to them. That, for that person, you inspire them to be kinder, better, greater, more successful, and more impactful. Perhaps it's the newfound clarity I have as a father, knowing that my son will always be watching what I do, mimicking my behavior, one day maybe even following in my footsteps. But it's not just my role as a father that shows me that. It's in the people I see every day that don't realize how inspirational they are to those watching. From small acts of kindness to large measures of character, each move that we make matters, especially when we don't think anyone is watching. That is when our true character comes to light. To that I say, be visible, own it, take seriously the responsibility we have to lead by example, and do that by the values that you reflect and the way that you move in the world. It doesn't require much. It's about who you are as opposed to what you do, as a human being rather than a human doing, because when we are being, we are able to acknowledge and feel our own internal state, who we are, and rediscover the things that matter most. My mother, Princess Diana, was a role model to so many, without realizing the impact she would have on so many lives. You don't have to be a princess or a public figure to be a role model. In fact, it's equally valuable if you're not, because it's more relatable. Being a role model and mentor can help heal the wounds of your own past and create a better future for someone else. As proven by today's inspirational youth and many of the stories we've heard this afternoon, the impact of a mentor has the power to make society richer, happier, kinder, and more aligned. On a more personal level, it's the power to change the course of a life, to be the North Star for a young person having trouble navigating their own path. Sometimes it's a school teacher, but we know how overworked they are. They don't always have the capacity, and they are figures of authority. What we need is relatable people to collaborate and guide us. Mentors. I have visited thousands of community centres, sports clubs and youth zones over the years, and I have witnessed firsthand the alchemy that occurs when two people are in sync and mutually benefiting each other. That is why I am urging businesses and organisations to pledge their commitment to mentoring, to shift the scale of social mobility for generations to come and unlock a resource which can transform society. I encourage each of you to see the value you bring to those around you and to make a conscious effort to not inspire quietly and invisibly, but rather to step up to the task and help someone shine their light even brighter. To the mentees here today, I am incredibly proud of what you've achieved, and I can safely say that my mother, who would have turned 58 yesterday, would feel the same. Thank you.
He gave a very moving, very motivational and inspiring speech, not just to the young people that were present, but to all the business there, reaching out to them, asking them to become mentors of the young people. But more than anything else, one of the things that really touched my heart in his speech was the shout out that he gave to the role models that don't even have a title, that don't even realize that they're being watched by young people, that they're inspiring young people to be better angels of themselves. And I think that is really, really important, because I remember, even for myself, at different times when I saw some of my daughter's teachers being role models to her without them even realizing that my daughter and other kids in schools were looking up to them. Even myself, over the years, so many people have come up to me and tapped me and said to me, "Oh, I remember what you said to me in my Sunday school class, or when you gave a speech at something, how much what you said inspired me," and I'm sure even, for people like you that's in the teaching profession, the words you say will come back even if it's 20 years from now. a young person will look and say, wow, you inspired me by what you did or what you said in the classroom. And it was nice to hear Prince Harry acknowledge all these invisible role models that are not even aware of the part there or the impression that's been made in a young person's life.
And what I even liked too a lot about the speech and the whole idea of an invisible role model is that you might be going about your business, but because you're living an exemplary life, because you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, you are probably influencing somebody around you and you don't even know it. So just by doing what you're supposed to do, as he said, that Archie's looking up to him right now. So by living an exemplary life, leading by example, doing what you're supposed to do, somebody's watching you, and that person may look at you as a role model, as somebody that they want to become, or somebody that sort of creates that type of direction for them. So that was like really powerful, because you don't have to be a celebrity to be a role model. You don't have to have a title to your name, as he said, like his mother, to be a role model. You could be the average person and be a role model for somebody that you may think is not looking but is looking. So what he's saying is, this is a call to action to the world, basically, that young people are looking, and let's just be exemplary for them, so that they could have someone to look up to and to guide them as they take on this really, really turbulent life.
So, it was actually, I think to all adults in whatever walks of life or whatever your station in life may be, yes, you are a role model, from the lowest person on the totem pole to the most respected person in the land. As my father used to say, even the street sweeper can be a role model.
Oh, yes.
Because if they're out there making an honest living, that is something to be admired.
Or even how they sweep the streets is something to be admired. There you go.
So whatever you are, be the best that you can be, because you know what? Somebody is watching.
Exactly.
And as I passed on to my own child, what I was taught at a very young age, it doesn't matter who it is. Your please and thank yous to even the lowest person on the totem pole goes a long way.
Exactly.
Because when that street sweeper sweep that street clean, had it not been for him, you could have been stepping over in garbage. And so you say thank you, and that goes a long way.
And then another thing is that not everybody can be, a celebrity, a basketball player, this or that, So it takes all the different types to make this world what it is, to make it beautiful. So just keep being you and keep doing the best that you can, and somebody's looking, and you never know. So the UK's hysteria about Archie's private christening.
Oh my goodness. Was that was that the most hilarious thing you've ever seen? Sometimes I have to wonder, are those people really supposed to be journalists? Did they even go to the school of journalism?
Well,
because it's just so hard to believe. Britain was once celebrated for her educational system by the world. And I think for the most part, a lot of people still consider British education a good thing. But after watching the last few years, watching the journalists and the royal reporters, watching them do all of their articles and their hit pieces, it now makes you actually scratch your head and say, you know what? I think we've been wrong.
You know what, Denise? It's a choice, I think, that they're making. It's not the education. I think they're making a choice to write these negative pieces because of their racism, ingrained racism. And that's what it's all about. So it's not even really, to me, at this point, about the education. I just think that it's pure racism. And with hate, you see all types of things surface with hate. And looking at a child, a private citizen, and making a big deal about his parents trying to keep his christening private, protect him from the public, where Harry knows it even better than all of us how the same press killed his mother. So he wants to raise his child not in the public eye. He doesn't want them coming after his child after having experienced that. So I'm thinking they're moved by the devil, Denise. It's not the education. They're moved by the devil and racism. That is the problem.
The colonial institutional racism that's so much a part of their DNA. And in speaking of Prince Harry too, not only did the British press, the paparazzis over there, hound his mother and help to kill her. Remember in his speech where he said, those same very people, and many of them that are reporting on Prince Harry's wife and his baby and he himself, some of those very people were there looking at his mother dying in the back seat of that car in Paris because they were hounding her, and not one of them thought to call the ambulance to save her. So yes, they're also responsible for her death. And then to make matters worse, after Diana's death, they did not stop there. When Prince Harry was a young man, a teenager, they started hounding him to the point where they were even trying to deny that his dad, Prince Charles, was his father, because they continued the narrative and wanted to paint his mother as something other than who she was. So we've seen this kind of thing play out in history before, and for them now to try to say, oh, Harry is weak or Harry's that, no. Harry has had first-hand experience where they hounded him. I mean, he knew that he could not lead the life of a normal teenager, and he tried everything to live up to his status in life. But there comes a time when everyone need to have a private moment, irregardless of whether you're the queen or not, because I'm sure the queen has had plenty of her private moments, and that's all Harry wanted in life. He wanted his private moments. And there was a time when Harry was in the military serving his country. On his day off, he was being a young man, like all young men, doing the stuff that young men do. And those vile British press people continued to go after him. At one point, they even outed who he was in the military, putting his life in danger.
To me, that is so vicious. And this is something, that Harry, he wanted to be serving, and to cut short his military experience, his service, that's unforgivable. This is something that he loved doing. And here you come exposing him, putting him in harm's way.
Yep.
That is unconscionable. How do you do that? So why should Harry give anybody, especially the press, access to his child having the experience that he's had, knowing what has been done to him and his mother?
Yeah. Why? And since he and Meghan have been together from the time they were dating, they've done nothing but hound her, harass her, bully her, try to dehumanize her. And this is what the British press does. This is what they pride themselves in doing. Back in the days of colonialization, they did the same thing when they went over and tried to colonize a whole continent, the continent of Africa. They went throughout the world using that same dehumanization playbook to dehumanize a whole race of people in order to divide and control. And they have continued to this very day. The only difference now is with social media and the internet, people can now speak out, enlighten each other, and let everybody know that they've been doing this for centuries. And this time, they're not going to get away with it, because people like us, we're going to continue to call them out.
Exactly. That's the whole idea. Yes, we showcase and shine a light on Harry and Meghan's causes, but I think the whole idea of racism, we definitely, that is a huge cause there. And we have to shine a light on the racism that is going on in the UK, in the British media, and they have to be exposed for what they are, and they cannot be they caused Diana's death, and they will not continue to do what they do and end up hurting somebody like
And a member of the Sussex family.
In the
And
Sussex
let's
family.
face
We will not have
yeah,
it.
yeah, even Harry's life has been threatened because those two white supremacists that the BBC initially reported on, they were calling Harry a race traitor. Imagine that. So yes, it's something that's deeply ingrained, and as more and more people speak about it, then they're going to be forced to deal with it. Because you know what? Even now, I just saw a recent report where they said that the universities in the UK have not prepared the students to deal with racism. And we can see this by the way the journalists report, that institutional racism is still a big part of the British culture. That even when you point out to them, I would say, I'm going to call one person's name because at this point I have nothing else left to do but to expose him. Chris Shipp works for one of the so-called prominent stations in the UK. He works for ITV, and what he does, he straddles the fence on matters of race. When you point out point blank to him that, Chris, this is being absolutely racist, he'll deflect by saying, oh, I didn't write it, or it wasn't me. I mean, what is that telling you? When you blatantly see him not only commenting but retweeting racist articles, when you confront him, he'll say, oh, it wasn't one of my pieces, I've reported favorable. Yet the same person that reports favorable today will turn around and highlight something racist tomorrow. And so I've blatantly told him that he's a closet racist, and he might as well just step out of the closet so people can see him for who and what he is.
Those are the implicit biases that people have, and because it's ingrained in them, it's just natural for them to behave in a particular way because those are part of their fabric. That is Chris. So even if he tries to pretend that he's not racist, because that is ingrained in him, because racism is ingrained in him, it just comes out automatically, subconsciously, and he's unaware of it because that is who he is. So no matter how much he tried to cover it, no matter how much he tried to spin it, it is him, and it comes out naturally because that's who he is.
Yes, and as we all know, a child is not born racist. No child is born racist. But you know what? Racism is taught at a very early age, from babies. Because when you stereotype people, when you call them the names in front of children, your children, and this is why Harry said that in his speech at the Diana Award, that he knows that his son is watching him. Yeah, and we watch our parents do things and we mimic, as Harry rightfully said. Children mimic their parents' behavior, and then one day those children grow up to be adults, and you find that the very thing that your parents did while you watch from a baby growing up, you then become exactly what your parents were, racist. And this is what has happened to several generations of the British. As my husband on America's Independence Day, he saw me on Twitter and he said, oh, I guess you must be tweeting about Harry and Meghan. I said, how did you know? So I told him how the reporters were in Assyria about the Frogmore home and everything. And you know what my husband said to me? He said, just tell them that quoting my husband, he said, my grandparents came over from England on the Mayflower came over to America from England on the Mayflower. And he said, people of that era are very racist. And those old farts in Britain are still very racist because they're from that era. Yeah. And the best thing that people can do is expose them and then ignore them. That's what my husband said. And so now he admitted that his great-grandparents that came over on the Mayflower came from England as racist. So is that telling you? He basically admitted that England is the motherland of racism. And so you still have that whole group of people over there that have tried to pass it on from one generation to another. And this is the ramification of what we're seeing now. So the only way we're gonna, as my grandma would say, break the fever is to expose it, to stay on it, to talk about it, and to not let up until it's broken.
Definitely. And as we said, Archie is a private citizen, and his parents purposely chose that role for him as a private citizen because of Harry's experience, and he's going to remain that way, so nobody has to be invited to anything or any occasion that relates to Archie. And the whole idea of whining and moaning, that's not going to make a difference. Is that the child is a private citizen, and they all should respect that and not use other things as leverages for invitations or opportunity to see Archie or be at any of his engagements. So that leads us to the myth about the cost of the $2.4 million for Fromore Cottage repair, which they've been using as leverage to attend or to have access to Archie's christening. What do you think about that?
Well, they think that by shaming and all of that stuff, they think that so-called taxpayers' funds paid for this Frogmore, and they thought they could just use that to blackmail the Sussexes into giving them access. But I'm so very proud of the Sussexes that they did not that they stood up to them, and they showed them that they're not for sale and that they cannot be bought. Their son is not for sale and their son cannot be bought. It's too bad that William and Kate did not do the same, because they sold out to the British press. They sold their children, sold to the British press. And considering William's mother was also Princess Diana, I'm appalled that he sold out, sold his soul, and his children sold to the press. And so now to see Harry and Meghan stand up to them and said, we don't care what you print, we don't care what you say, we're not for sale, we will not be blackmailed. Because you know the old saying about a blackmailer, when you give in to them, they're going to continue because they're never satisfied. Yeah. And so the crap about taxpayers paying for Frogmore House, the taxpayers did not pay for that dilapidated building. They absolutely did not, because that building was so run down that even the Queen's so-called servants could no longer live in it. It was so outdated. It was on the condemnation list for condemned property. And so it was already earmarked for repairs. Yeah.
Denise, here's a confirmation of what you said about the money for Frogmore in an interview on Channel 5 News with Dickie Arbiter, the Queen's former spokesperson.
They recently spent almost £2.5 million of taxpayers' money doing up their new home. And now they're being accused of not doing their public duty. We're here to discuss this is the royal commentator, Dickie Arbiter. Good evening to you, Dickie. Look, first of all, what was your reaction when you found out how private they're going to keep the christening?
Well, most christenings are private. The mistake they made was announcing that they were going to have the christening, and also the Archbishop of Canterbury was going to do the christening. But I want to pull you up on something, because you just said about having their home made over for £2.5 million in public money, taxpayers' money. It's not taxpayers' money, it's public money out of the Crown Estates. Crown Estates last year made a profit of about almost £350 million, which goes to the Treasury, of which a chunk goes into the Sovereign's Grant, which is how the Queen manages her affairs in terms of public duty, how the palaces are renewed and renovated. So it was money from that and not taxpayers' money. I mean, you might as well say taxpayers' money to pay for politicians. Never criticised. Taxpayers' money used to renovate.
Well, actually, you know what the money politicians get and how they spend
but
it,
we're talking
or
about
how they pay for expenses, of course, has come under fire in terms of the public money and indeed the money from the estates. You can argue that the money that the Queen makes is because of their royal duties and because of the money that they're getting in terms of the taxes.
You have to pay for a monarchy.
And then
money's
also
got to come
in terms
somewhere.
of other taxpayers' money that pays for weddings and other
taxpayers' money
events
doesn't
that
pay
take
for
place.
weddings. I mean, last year's wedding was paid for by the Queen, not taxpayers' money. Yes, taxpayers' money to pay for security. Who do you think's paying for security tomorrow on the Pride March? Taxpayers' money. So, it's splitting hairs a bit, and it's using the soft underbelly of the monarchy to have a go at it, rather than accepting the facts as they are instead of making them up.
For the viewers out there, the money from the Queen's Trust, the profit that came in from the Queen's own buildings, Buckingham Palace, the Tower, jewels, all of those buildings that goes on exhibit that people pay, including us Americans. When you go to Britain, you have to pay to go to the exhibits in those buildings, all the castles. And the Queen gets a certain percentage of the money from those buildings as her income. A part of those funds also go into her grant and her trust to maintain the buildings on her estates. And so these are the funds that was used to upgrade Fromore Cottage. Not British taxpayers' money, but money that come in as the income from people all over the world that go to visit those properties. So when those reporters are going to make a big deal and say, $2.4 million of taxpayers' funds, I can honestly say we can look them in the face and say that is a lie. That is a lie.
And you know what is interesting? Nobody took the time out to mention that William and Kate spent, $1.5 million?
$1.8 million on a driveway.
On a driveway. Nobody's pointing that out. A driveway. Whereas you have a family bringing a new life into this world and needing a home to raise their child, and you're complaining about something that is unrelatable. You're complaining about they spending taxpayers' money, which is a blatant lie, but yet other people are spending $1.8 million to fix a driveway and nobody's talking about that. I don't know. It's just...
Oh yeah. Well, these people had an agenda, you see, and like all blackmailers do. What they were going to do, they wanted to use the cost of repairs to blackmail the Sussexes. That's how vile and low. And for the American networks that picked up that crap and reported it, shame on them too. Because you know what? That was blatant blackmail. They put that out there because they thought they could manipulate the Sussexes into giving them access to their private christening for their baby, who they chose not to accept a title for because they want to raise him as a citizen. And just to add on that, Anita, Meghan went into that family with her own hard-earned millions. Not one, not two, not three, not four, millions. Over $10 million of her own hard-earned cash that she worked her fingers to the bones for. And if Meghan lived in California, a $2.4 million home would be like a 2-bedroom apartment. So $2.4 million. If you had to go to California, where Meghan was raised to buy a home, 2.4 million would get you like a little rundown shack in a not so nice neighborhood of California. So really $2.4 million to repair something is absolutely nothing. So I don't even know why British people or the reporters think they have to make a big deal out of it. But I said even more shameful was a few of the American networks that reported on that too, because they know damn well, excuse my French, that $2.4 million could not even get you a condo where Meghan grew up. Meghan did not grow up in a shack. I'm sure her mother's home right now costs more than $2.4 million. Yeah, Miss Doria's home now, the home that Meghan call home, where baby Archie will eventually visit, costs way more than $2.4 million. So this was just, blackmailers, colonial racist blackmailers doing what they do best. And then, making people hysterical for not having access.
And the next thing too that I also wanted to point out too is that the whole expenditure for the whole year 1819 was, I think, $89 million.
Yeah,
And
yeah, exactly.
and you've taken focus on $2.4 million. Very interesting.
Think about the 1 point something billion with a B that Meghan and Harry generated in income for the British economy. Has anybody even mentioned that? The airtime that Harry and Meghan have given to the British royal family has surpassed $10 million of airtime. Imagine if all the networks were charging the royal family for all the time that they've been given on air because of Meghan and Harry.
Mm-hmm.
Because now every time you see something to do with Meghan and Harry, they try to throw Kate and William in it.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine if they had to pay for all that airtime, the bloody British economy would be bankrupt. So that's why I think people should just disregard anything that comes out of the British press. They just disregard it, to use it as your pet, for your pet litter box, because it's not even worth the paper it's written on.
Yes.
And it's not worth clicking onto. And for our readers, just remember, when you see something from the British press online, every time you click on it, they're making cash. So please do not help to put any money in their pockets. Our goal should be to put them all out of business.
And that is showing too on social media that those so-called royal reporters, people used to use their materials to retweet and to watch their stuff, and if you look at their likes now and the comments on their account, it has definitely gone down. So Twitter is definitely doing something to cause them to decrease their viewership and let them know, send a message to them that we're not going to take it. We're not going to, we're going to make sure that you do not put money in your pocket. And if you're using Meghan and you're being that blatantly racist, we're not going to support you. We're definitely going to boycott you. And that is showing on Twitter. So we're asking the audience right now to not click on any of the articles that you see written about Meghan. Because the other day, I think we looked at, in one day, we looked at the articles, not that we clicked on them, but we could see the topics and the
headlines.
Yes, we looked at the headlines and we could see when the articles came out and how long ago they came out, and we had a total of 64 articles or coverages on Meghan and Harry in one day. That is outrageous. 64.
Yeah,
so
because what? Meghan's name means money for them.
Yes, so we
and so even when she's not related to an article, they'll use her name because they're expecting clicks. So the golden rule is we go by what Meghan's rules, instructions. She said, good or bad. Don't read it. Don't click on it. Just let it go.
Exactly. Let's stop them from making money off Meghan's name and until they start respecting her. And so let's move on to something that is brighter. Archie's big day. Oh, how adorable.
Oh, wow.
Oh my goodness. What a beautiful baby. Gorgeous.
Let me tell you, this baby is to die for, as his father rightly said.
You're right.
Yeah. When Harry announced the birth of his son, he said, this little thing is to die for. And let me tell you, he was not kidding.
Oh my goodness.
Because I'm ready to go back over there and fight. Fight for this baby.
Yes.
So, no kidding. This baby's definitely to die for.
Adorable.
Because he's the most beautiful baby ever. And I know Harry was a cutie pie when he was a baby, but I tell you, when you put he and his son together at the same age, they look like twins.
Well, you're saying that, and some of our listeners will say yes, that he does look like Harry, but I'm saying no. I think he looks a lot like Meghan when she was little. But anyways, as we know, babies are constantly evolving, and we'll see in a couple of months when we see them again what he looks like then. But you're saying Harry, I'm saying Meghan, and I'm thinking there's a great divide on that.
Yeah, I look at them and I see, basically, let's put it this way, he's got the best of both his parents' features.
Yes.
He's got the best of both his parents' features. But one thing for sure, We can see he's going to be a ginger.
Oh gosh, he is so adorable. His little head, his bright eyes, he's just so cute. And I love his cheeks. His cheeks are like, oh my goodness, I love babies with chubby cheeks.
Yeah,
he's just so full and adorable. He's too much. He's too cute.
I did say this little thing is to die for.
I know. He's really an adorable baby.
Absolutely right. He was absolutely right. He is definitely. And I can see, you know, I remember once one of reporters said that when the baby was born, Harry was going to be like a grizzly bear. She did warn, back in November they showed some special in the US, and she said he's going to be a daddy grizzly. And let me tell you one thing, they better not cross his path, those reporters, because he will tear them apart. Remember, he is a military man too, so he will rip them apart with his bare hands. And just because he might not be vocal, we don't see him out there screaming and shouting, don't ever for 1 minute think he's not taking notes and he don't know who these vile reporters are, you know. And you can tell when he's out in a crowd and he spot them, you can see it on his features. It's like as if his looks could kill them, they would all be dead meat right now, because just the way he look at them, you can see that he despises all of them. And even though they may try to blame some of these things on Meghan, they're only really doing that. They're actually using Meghan to get to Harry, because they also know that his wife is to die for. He loves his wife so much that he would give his life for her, and now for their baby. And that's why they're doing it, because they know. But thank God Meghan is the cool, calm, zen force that she is, because I'm sure she's pulled him back many a times from tearing them apart. And she's just teaching him how to rise, you know, as her favorite author. Maya Angelou is one of Meghan's favorite authors, and she wrote a poem that says, you can shoot me with your words, you can cut me with your eyes, you may kill me with your hatefulness, but still, like life, I'll rise.
I'll rise.
Yeah. And so this is one of her favorite quotes from back in high school. She quoted that, and she's now teaching her husband how to rise above all of it. And it's a beautiful thing to watch. It's actually beautiful thing to watch, because every time we see them, especially when we see them together, we just see them in love and floating above all of the crap. And you know, we can all take a page out of that book.
I'm happy that they got Archie's big day as how they wanted it, as a private citizen, and they released the pictures. I was even a little bit surprised, because I was thinking that it was going to be released the day after, but you know,
I was expecting it today at 11 o'clock myself. But they knew, you know.
They're kind to us. You see, they're kind people. We just have to wait for them. The press just have to wait and not be so, you know,
impatient,
evil.
You've got to give the Sussexes credit, though. They do know their fan base.
Oh yes. They definitely said.
Know how to satisfy our needs, because you know what? The pictures we got were even much more than I expected.
Yes.
I did not expect to see 2 pictures. And I did not expect to see that intimate little moments with the 3 of them in the black and white, you know. So they gave us
they always do
dinner and dessert.
Yes, they always do. The same thing with Archie's birth. They gave us everything. You know, people just have to wait and let them do their thing, how they want it, how they see fit, how it's best for them, and respect that. That's what they need, respect. So, you know, I was just so happy to see the pictures, and that's good for me.
Yes,
just
yes. It was like, you know, the great reward of, you know, patiently waiting and of just being a supporter, you know, to know that they wouldn't let us down and they would feed our craving. That's just a beautiful thing to watch. And, you know, on that note, I have to say, for all of us that consider ourselves a part of the Sussex squad, I lift my hat with respect to every member out there, because we're always there to defend the Sussexes. And And it's really beautiful to see that a couple have inspired millions of people from all over the world in all different walks of life to come together in unity and on one accord. It's a beautiful thing to watch, to see the squad, get themselves together and go out there and go to bat for this couple and now their baby.
Yeah, and you know what is beautiful about all of this? They have not proved us wrong one bit. Everything that we said in that fandom, every defense that we've raised in their name has been so true. Everything that we say, when everything is said and done, always come out as truth in that fandom, no matter what it is, because we so understand Harry and Meghan. So whatever we say, whenever we defend them, they always prove us right, that what we were saying all along was the truth. Reporters and the UK press, they're phonies. Harry and Meghan always know how to make the reporters and the UK press as liars, prove them as liars.
Exactly. I mean, even something as simple as, for days now we've been saying that, okay, we don't really know who the 25 invited guests and family are. We don't know who all of them were. We know for sure that Charles and Camilla would be going. We knew that the Cambridges were going. We knew that we would not see anybody else coming and going, but somehow we kind of felt that the Cambridges would make themselves seen. And they did. We also did not know who the baby's godparents would be, and rightly so, because the godparents have asked for privacy. But we also predicted that a certain couple would leak information, and lo and behold, the UK Times reporter Roy Anika claimed to have an exclusive of who one of the godfathers was. Now, where would she have gotten that? It's private, as the reporters try to dig. It's supposed to be secret. And there's only one couple who sold their soul to the British media, would even give them a glimpse of who might have been in that christening. And that's William and Kate. Yes, I'm calling their names on air because William is a traitor. He betrayed his brother to the very press that killed their mother. Why? To cover up his alleged affair. Now, if this alleged affair wasn't true, why would you sell out your brother and your sister-in-law? I mean, we know he's also very jealous of his brother, because for his 37 years on earth, he's done absolutely nothing except he's sitting back waiting to be king someday. But king of what? No. King of what?
Nobody's looking for a king of nothing. Hasn't contributed anything to society. This world is changing. No longer will people accept somebody sitting on a throne and dictating. This is nonsense. This is the 21st century. We want people of action. We want people that can change society. We want people that can contribute. We want productive people. We want people that can do something. Not somebody telling what to do when they themselves do not have the know-how. Get out of here, that nonsense.
Yeah. I mean, people that have earned your respect. You know, one of the reasons why the world respects Prince Harry so much, because on several occasions he said, yes, I know I was born into a family of privilege. He said he knows that. I was born into a family of privilege, and I know the privilege that I have. But you know what? He has not taken that privilege for granted. On several times he said, you know what? I want to earn the respect of others. And with that privilege, I want to use it to give back. And for his almost 35 years on earth, that's exactly what he has been doing. He has been doing exactly what his mother taught him to do with the platform and the privilege that he has. He has worked hard to earn the respect, because he knows that respect is not something that you can demand.
You have to earn it.
It's something that you need to earn. And he has been earning that respect since he was a young man. He was only 18 years old when he started Sentabali in Africa. And even when the older family members said, Are you sure? He said, yes, I'm sure. And he used his own money to join the prince in Africa to begin Sentabali, because that Prince Esau, had also lost his mom. They both lost their mothers. And so in memory of their moms, they started Sentabali for the children who had lost parents due to HIV/AIDS. And you know what? Sentabali is growing and moving through different African countries to try to give victims of AIDS a new lease on life, also to educate and to try to eradicate the disease over there. So Prince Harry has earned the respect. He turned around, he served his 10 years in the military on the battle line, and he came out and he didn't just sit back and say, okay, I'm Prince, so I don't need to go any further. He started the Invictus Games to make sure that the men and women that served in the armed forces, not just in his country, the UK, but worldwide, he wanted to give those people a new lease on life, because many of those people that came out of the service were not only traumatized by what they'd seen on the battlefront, but many of them suffered from the PSD syndrome, and a lot of them are actually suicidal because they've lost limbs. They're just broken. A lot of them are guilt-ridden by things that they had to do on the battlefield. And they come back to their, they've returned to their countries, for many, as broken vessels. But with this Invictus Games that Harry started and created again on his own, he has given these people a new lease on life, because not only is it helping to rebuild the broken lives and the limbs that are no longer there, it's given a new lease on life to families. Because imagine a man returning home, he left on his own 2 feet, and now he's back and he's having to use a prosthetic limb, whether it's his legs or his arms. Imagine how that man returning back to his family, how he must feel less than. But with this new lease, not only him, but his family too, can take part in these Invictus Games, and they feel like whole again. They feel whole again, and those artificial limbs, they're using it as if it's their own flesh and blood limbs. And they're saying, you know what, I can do this. These people have returned to their country and their families maimed, but it's okay because they've been given a new lease on life. And even though the prosthetic limbs or even the eyes may not have been what they're born with, but guess what? They're not going to lose out. They're not going to lose out. They're feeling whole. And guess who we have to thank for that? That's right. And so, yes, he has earned it. He has earned his place in our hearts as the people's prince and the people's king. And he, as he said, the stars were aligned. He met his wife, Meghan Markle, who had also been serving behind the scenes. Imagine that. Meghan also went to visit the troops in Afghanistan when nobody even knew her name. She was feeding the homeless. She was going to Skid Row and serving in the kitchens when nobody even knew her name. And so, yes, Harry found the perfect wife. Meghan found the perfect husband. And now together they are a force for good. And as Harry said, their son may someday decide to walk in their footsteps. And they're making sure that those footsteps will be footsteps for the good of not just themselves, but for all humanity. And you know what? What more could we ask for?
So on that note, if you have any questions or concerns, please visit our Twitter account and drop us a note, or our website and drop us a note there.
Yes. You know what we need to do, Anita? I think, and I've been promising, I know on several episodes, we really need to take some time to answer some of the questions from our listeners. And if you're listening out there, please forgive us again for going off on a little tangent here. As you know, we're passionate about, what we're doing and the couple that we're trying to serve. But we do promise you, we're going to devote a section of our segment just to answering your questions. So please keep them coming, and we will surprise you, and we'll take them, we'll make a list of them, and try to answer each question as best we can, so that you will know that we do hear you.
Oh yes,
We
yes.
do hear you.
And I have been keeping track. Definitely, we've been keeping track of the YouTube comments. One listener, one follower on the YouTube channel said that they did not know that Prince Harry created the Queen's Commonwealth Trust, and it's like they were really surprised. So we are listening and reading your comments. And also, Denise, I wanted to spotlight the wonderful article that you wrote about the British press and how the world is looking at them, and they're changing the perception of how people view the UK. So that's beautiful, and that's on the blog page, on the website, as well as it's also on YouTube and our Twitter account. So that was a beautiful read.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you, and hopefully I'll get a chance to write a few more articles. And if there are any listeners out there that's listening to us, and you would like to write an article, please just send us a DM or to our website, mydukeandI.com, and we will be happy to feature it for you, because we know that there may be writers out there that would like to really express themselves in their writing and have it shared to others. We do welcome you to just send in whatever you have, and just give us the name that you would like to have it published under. You don't have to use your real name. You can use a pen name if you feel more comfortable with that. And yes, we will definitely make sure that it's published and it's aired out there, because together we're all in this. We're all in this together, and our goal, I believe, for the most of us, our goal is the same. Number one, to shine a light on the Sussexes and the good things that they're doing, and to expose things as racism, because I think in this 21st century, it's time that we say enough. No race should be more superior than another, and the white race is definitely not superior to the black race. History, I don't have to say it, but history has proven that time and time again. And so on that note, I guess we'll say adieu.
Adieu.